It would be a mistake to vote before we've completely solved Angie's murder. And there's still the mystery of Tenko's murder.
Mystery? What kind of mystery?
Well, Kyo's confession derailed our conversation a bit. But we still have to go over one of the clues found at Tenko's crime scene. I believe it might even have something to do with Angie's murder.
Yes, the outlying piece of evidence at Tenko's murder scene. Oh, god damn it.
I was wrong!
You know what I meant.
This is it! The bloodstain found under the floor. Maki and I found it during the investigation. It was beneath the floorboard that the culprit stomped on.
Is that Tenko's blood?
That bloodstain is too far from Tenko's corpse to have been hers.
Also, the bloodstain was already dry when we found it. But the blood from Tenko's body hadn't even begun to dry yet.
Well, that's weird. Why was that bloodstain the only dry one?
The bloodstain on the floorboard was dry because...
I was wrong! That's it! The bloodstain wasn't from Tenko's murder. It was there before we started the seance.
Before the seance?
That should make it clear whose blood it was.
That's it! That bloodstain wasn't Tenko's. It was Angie's.
Why was blood from Angie at the scene of Tenko's murder?
Why indeed?
Yeah, wasn't Angie killed in her research lab?
Just because we found her body there doesn't mean she was killed there.
Ah, I guess that's possible.
If Angie wasn't killed in her lab, then that opens up a lot more possibilities. We assumed that only council members could have killed Angie since her body was in her lab. But if she died somewhere else, then we can't suspect just the council members anymore.
So the culprit didn't enter her lab, but waited for her to come out of it?
I'm not sure if the culprit waited for her, but they probably killed her when she came out. Well, I thought that was more likely from the start.
Sure you did.
So I went to places Angie might have gone and checked all 3 empty rooms.
Places she might have gone? Why did you check the empty rooms then?
The empty rooms were the only places I could think of that Angie would go.
Did Angie have business in rooms?
It seems Kokichi's up to his usual misleading nonsense again.
I do lie a lot, and I could be lying right now too. But I'm pretty sure someone's panicking right now because of my lie.
Angie left her lab on her own and headed to the room where she was killed. Is Kokichi's statement true, or...
The art research lab is not where Angie was killed. She was killed in the empty room instead!
She left her lab on her own?
But why would she go into an empty room? There shouldn't have been anything in there.
I'm still missing something.
Except for candles.
That's it! She wanted a candle! Keep herself awake at night. She would drip hot wax on her body. That sounds like something only you would do, Mew.
What did Kokichi see? Something Angie did. There has to be a clue there.
The art
And I
research
think I
lab
know what it is.
is
She
not
did
where
want a
Angie was
candle.
killed.
My line of thinking
She was
wasn't
killed in the
incorrect.
empty room instead.
I was just using the wrong bit of proof.
There's
That's it!
Agree!
That's it. Angie went to that room to get a candle.
Because she needed it to burn the Necronomicon.
Yeah, her kinky wax play.
Shut up, Miu!
No. Angie was going to use it for the ritual. According to the Necronomicon, to resurrect the dead,
Then, did she seek out a candle so she could burn the book?
That's right. There's nothing to start a fire with in Angie's lab. So she went to go get a candle from one of the empty rooms.
And that's when the culprit attacked her.
That's why there was dried blood under floor.
Which means Angie was attacked in the same room the seance was held. Bravo, Himiko. Well done for choosing that room for the seance. If we hadn't done the seance in that room, then Tenko's murder would have been in another room. If that happened, no one would have discovered Angie's bloodstain under the floorboards.
Maybe she is magic.
That's right. Shuichi and I only checked under the floorboards where Tenko died.
Yep, it's all thanks to Himiko for choosing the same room as Angie. This must be a Tua's will. Or maybe the power of magic.
It's magic.
It's neither. I just picked one.
Hold on. You're all acting as though you've proven that as fact already. You claim Angie was murdered in the empty room, and then moved to the lab? Then how do you explain the large amount of blood in the lab? It may be possible to carry a body, but blood cannot be moved.
I think she was still alive after the attack in the empty room.
Yes, she was. And I know how!
She was killed after she was carried to her lab.
That means the culprit attacked her twice. I have evidence of that.
This is it! The fatal wound was a cut to the back of her neck from the katana.
But there was also a knockout wound.
But she also showed signs of blunt force trauma, and I think I know why. After Angie was knocked unconscious in the empty room, she was killed in her lab.
I see. So that puddle of blood is from the killing blow. Ha! It's all clear now. Angie was attacked in the empty room, carried to her lab, and it was there that the culprit finished her off.
Yes.
All clear. This is all clear. What are you all talking about? All clear? What is all clear? What are you? All clear? What are you all? You what? What are? I will not fear. I will not back down.
She was a woman!
Sweet Korekio, calm yourself. Their words are all hollow. There is no meaning to any of them.
I totally called that at some point!
You must teach these ignorant children a lesson.
Yes, you're right.
Oh no, not this. Not Dissociative identity disorder? Really?
What the hell are you mumbling about? You're giving me the goddamn willies!
Not yet. Nothing is clear at all. It's full of doubts, of mysteries, of a dense, impenetrable fog! Nothing is clear at all!
Oh boy.
Angie was attacked in the empty room first. And then carried into the research lab? Impossible! Impossible! That's nothing but a delusion! You would tend to poison our minds with your delusions?
It's no delusion. Angie's 2 external wounds tell the story. After she was struck in the empty room, she was carried to the art research lab and then killed.
You say the culprit carried Angie's body? And not a single drop of blood fell? The hallway and empty room had no bloodstains.
Shit. You tricked me.
I was wrong!
You all
And
know
not a
what I'm
single
trying to
drop of
say.
blood fell? Kind, but there was no evidence anywhere, was there, Shuichi?
I'll cut through your words!
Snicked, bub.
There was evidence left at the scene. The bloody tape under Angie's body.
What?
It was wrapped around her head to stop the bleeding while she was being carried.
Bloody tape? Gonta didn't notice at all.
It was under the body. It's most likely evidence the culprit should have gotten rid of. But since it was hidden, the culprit didn't notice and failed to dispose of it.
It must have fallen as the fatal blow was dealt, and ended up under her body.
It must have been Atua who did that for us.
What? Atua? How long are you going to keep that up?
But how did Hishi get into the room?
Now we know most of the mystery behind Angie's murder.
I'm convinced there's only one person who could have killed Angie. It has to be you! It's you, Kyo. You killed Angie.
I had it wrong, but I knew it had to be one killer.
What the fuck? So it's true!
Well, that was obvious. Such a boring, obvious answer.
You killed both of them. Why did you kill them?
In terms of pure logic, only one victim was necessary to win.
Why? Why you killed them both?
I think one of the murders was an accident.
An accident?
That's right. It wasn't part of the plan.
Huh? Which one?
The murder that was an accident.
That's it! Angie's murder was an accident.
What? Tango wasn't accident?
That's right. Kyo originally planned to kill someone with a seesaw trick.
That makes sense.
But while he was making preparations in the empty room, Angie walked in. So he decided to kill her in order to keep her from talking.
She just happened to walk in on the culprit setting up and was killed.
Jen, you should have just stopped there. Tenko killed Angie. There was no reason for him to kill Tenko.
That explains how he got in the room. Because Angie had left it unlocked.
You only needed to kill one for this game. Killing 2 is pointless. If you get bonus points for killing more, then sure. Otherwise, it leaves more clues behind.
Why, Kyo? Why you kill 2 of our friends?
What on earth are you talking about?
Time for a showdown, buddy.
No, I'm not the culprit.
It wasn't me, it was her.
Why is everyone looking at me like I am? Why? Why are they? Why is it? Calm yourself, Korekio. Yes. You mustn't raise your voice. You mustn't stutter. You mustn't lose composure. You mustn't become flustered. You mustn't waver. Look at their horrid faces. This sorry lot is not worth agonizing over. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
There he goes again. What the hell's wrong with him?
It almost seems like he's talking with someone.
Something Bates Motel Psycho.
Someone? He's just talking to himself. And why the hell is he wearing lipstick?
No matter how loudly you protest, this is a trivial matter. I will never acknowledge your allegations. Not a single one of them. For you see, there is no evidence that I killed Angie. No, I will not acknowledge it. I will only acknowledge facts, true events. I won't acknowledge fiction, mystery. I won't acknowledge your deductions or guesses. Well said. Good job, Korekio. Yes, thanks.
Creeps me the fuck out!
No evidence? There's no evidence that he killed Angie.
You're wrong. There is evidence.
Yes, there is.
What? You do realize bluffs like that won't work, yes?
The weapon that was used to knock Angie unconscious in the empty room. That weapon tells us the whole story, Kyo.
That's not possible. I think you may have misunderstood. Apologize. Come on, apologize. 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 Apologize.
Seriously, what the hell's happening?
I have no idea what's happening with Kyo. But I know what weapon he used on Angie. I have to prove it to him.
I have nothing to admit. You are simply wrong.
Boy, I cannot remember how to do this.
Yes, I'm not the culprit. So I have nothing to confess. I have nothing to admit. You are simply wrong. Yes, I'm not the culprit. So I have nothing to confess. I have nothing to admit. You are simply wrong. I'm not the culprit. So... Why must you force your delusions on us? You're lying. That's merely a delusion. Well said, Korekio. To continue this debate is meaningless. Why must you force your delusions on us? You're lying. That's merely a delusion. Well said, Korekio. To continue this debate is meaningless. Why must you force your delusions on us? You're lying. That's merely a delusion. I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You're all wrong, not me. Korekio speaks the truth. Such a sorry lot. Apologize. 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 I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You're all wrong, not me. Korekio speaks the truth. Such a sorry lot. Apologize. 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 I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You're all wrong, not me. Korekio speaks the truth. Such a sorry lot. Apologize. 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 I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You're all wrong, not me! Correcchio speaks the truth. Such a sorry lot. Apologize. Apologize. Apologize.
God damn it, this is hard.
You have no proof that Correcchio is the killer.
What?
I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You're all wrong, not me! You have no proof that Correcchio is the killer.
It ends here!
Floorboard removed. Removed floorboard. You're really gonna make that kind of a differentiation here?
Keo hit Angie with the same floorboard used in the seesaw trick.
I see. And how do you know the floorboard was the murder weapon?
There was a small patch of dried blood on the underside of the floorboard.
Angie's blood?
Blood that spattered there when the culprit struck Angie with the board. But that's not the only evidence that she was hit with that floorboard. There's also the blood stain under the floor to consider. For that to be there, the floorboard must not have been in place at the time of the attack.
See, I thought it was the stone. I didn't think it was the floorboard.
Good point. Had the floorboard been in place, her blood wouldn't have splattered beneath it.
Keo's earlier confession is further evidence that the floorboard was used.
How?
If the weapon used to hit Angie is the floorboard from the seesaw trick,
It means the culprit knew about the seesaw, so the same person killed Tenko and Angie. I believe that while Keo was setting up the seesaw, he was holding the board when Angie walked in.
And he cold-cocked her with a floorboard.
all you can do now is accept it. You even confessed to Tenko's murder already.
It's true. This is the truth.
Looks like we're almost at the end. All right, Shuichi. I'll leave the finale to you. Bring down the house.
Got it.
Shuichi, please, put an end to this. For Angie and Tenko's sake. End this class trial.
I understand. I'll go over everything one more time. Keo, I want you to confess. No, I will force you to confess.
Okay. And last but not least,
This is the truth of the case! Let's look back at the first murder. It was late last night. The culprit was in the empty room on the 4th floor. The culprit was preparing the seance murder they had planned. To use the floorboard as a seesaw, they had to cut the crosspiece supporting it. The plan was to make the same preparations for all 3 empty rooms. This would divert suspicion away from the culprit and whoever picked a room. To cut the crosspieces, they needed a saw. I imagine they got one from the warehouse. They were planning to cut the crosspieces in all 3 rooms. However, when the culprit was working on the middle room, the unexpected happened. Angie walked into that room and saw the culprit making their preparations. She needed some fire for the ritual and had gone to the room for a candle. At that point, the culprit had not finished the setup and was just cutting crosspieces. Angie might not have concluded that it was tied to some kind of murder plan. But now that Angie had seen it, the culprit couldn't use the seesaw trick. Any other person might have just given up, but not our culprit.
bonk.
The culprit took the floorboard they loosened and struck the unsuspecting Angie in the head. The culprit did not want to give up on their plan and had to improvise. They wrapped duct tape around Angie's injury to stop the bleeding. Then they picked up her unconscious body and carried her to a research lab. While she was unconscious, the culprit hurried to tie up this loose end. But because they were in a hurry, they made a crucial oversight. They didn't notice the duct tape had peeled off and was under Angie's body. Without that evidence, we may never have figured out the culprit's trick. Carrying the supplies they needed, the culprit returned to the ultimate art lab. Locked the front door from inside. And took out the katana they brought from their own lab. They then stabbed Angie in the back of the neck, finally killing her. Then, to further confuse us, the culprit attempted to make a locked room mystery. First, they used rope from the warehouse and hung 4 effigies upside down. There were 2 reasons for this: to overwhelm the room with an occult atmosphere, and the other was the key to locking the room. The culprit stuck the katana into Kaede's effigy near the rear entrance. And spun the effigy around to twist up the rope. After enough turns, the culprit let go and headed for the rear door. Once released, the effigy began spinning, and the gold leaf katana with it. The handle of the katana then hit the sliding lock, locking the door. a difficult trick. But remember that the lock was so loose it moved at the slightest touch. The culprit also would have had the opportunity to attempt it many times. Once complete, the door was locked, but the duct tape was left behind. Perhaps the culprit noticed it, but by that point, it was too late. The room was sealed. There was no way for them to get back inside. Then, this morning, we opened up the room and discovered Angie's body. But the culprit wasn't finished. They wanted one more murder. To do that, they manipulated us into performing this seance. Of the 3 empty rooms, the middle one was chosen for the seance. I was invited by Kokichi to take Kibo's place in the seance. Tenko volunteered to be the medium, but she never imagined it would get her killed. To perform the seance, the culprit claimed they needed something for Tenko.
But again, I'm left wondering, why did he need 2 murders? Because he figured it'd be easier for them to solve the second one and his first one would be ignored and he'd be safe?
A small stone that Himiko had brought from the courtyard. Tenko, at the culprit's request, bowed her head until it was touching the stone. That position was instrumental in making sure the murder went as planned. Next, Kokichi and I placed the iron cage over Tenko in the middle of the magic circle. The culprit then volunteered to drape the white cloth over the iron cage. We didn't realize it at the time, but that was a deliberate decision by the culprit. They needed to set up the murder weapon that was used to kill Tenko. While they were covering the cage with a cloth, they secretly placed the sickle. Finally, 4 of us placed the wooden statue on top of the cage. The culprit used the weight of the statue to keep the murder weapon in place. After the preparations were complete, we began the seance. In complete darkness, we each stood in one corner and sang the Caged Child song. When the song finished, the soul of the dead was supposed to enter the medium, but our culprit had another plan: to commit a murder in the darkness. Right after we started singing, the culprit began making their way toward Tenko. It would have been quite difficult to do in total darkness, but our culprit had a guide. They used the lines of the magic circle drawn with salt.
I still don't get that. I mean, that's no different than what the document showed. Or at least, it would have been obvious if you'd allowed me to look at it.
The culprit felt for the salt and used it to guide them along. And when the culprit reached the center of the circle, they found the floorboard that had its crosspiece cut off the night before. Then lifted up their foot and stomped down hard on the floorboard. The floorboard lifted up like a seesaw and pushed Tenko's body up toward the ceiling of the cage. Tenko was stabbed in the back of the neck by the sickle on the top of the cage. She was killed right before our eyes, and we didn't even see it. After committing the crime, the culprit followed the Salt back to their corner, finished the ritual, and had us light the candles. We followed the culprit's directions and removed the equipment used for the seance. And discovered Tenko's body. While we were all focused on the body, the culprit picked up the sickle and dropped it under the floor through the hole in the corner of the room. Ironically, the final step of the murder was unwittingly carried out by us. The culprit had planned the murder so that we would unintentionally destroy some evidence. That evidence was the magic circle that the culprit used to navigate in the dark. However, the culprit didn't know that Kibo had taken a picture. He really saved us. Without that, we wouldn't know what changes were made to the circle. But now we know for certain, and we know the culprit drew the magic circle. Korekio Shinguchi, the ultimate anthropologist. You're the culprit behind these murders.
And 12 minutes. 12 minutes to explain the entire couple of murders. That's way too long, guys. You have to find a more concise way of saying that. Also, I'm just saying, there's no way in the world anyone in reality would be able to solve that. I mean, it's fine, it's a game, whatever, and there were plenty of clues. There's no way anyone in the world would be able to solve that in reality. Just impossible. Not in that amount of time. Maybe if they had weeks to work on it, maybe.
That's where my detective work leads us. It all fits.
Sweet Korekio. There are times when it's necessary to admit defeat. Admit? Yeah. Okay.
So you finally admit you did it.
Unfortunately. Yes. Yes. It's unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. My one regret, my only regret, was not being able to make 100 friends.
Dude, you can do that on Facebook, like, in a day or two.
Friends?
It was my dream to make 100 friends. Oh, it's so unfortunate! I was so close to 100!
What are you talking about? I do not understand a word of this.
Who gives a fuck? Let's vote for this kooky bastard and be done with this already!
Roger that! One voting time! Coming up!
The heart racing excitement as...
The heart-racing excitement!
As the blackened and the spotless finally face off!
It's voting time!
You heard him.
Now then, it seems the voting has finished. Let's see the result.
Did he even vote for himself? Is that what that means?
Who'll be chosen as the blackened? Will you make the right choice or the dreadfully wrong one?
All rise. Boy, that was a messy trial. And yet I got an A. How is that possible? I sucked at that. Oh boy. What does back route mean? It's kind of weird.
Wah! Absolutely right! All right!
For now.
No.
Yeah, now we need to hear why. Other than the fact that he's a nutcase.
Right!
Oh?
Hey! Hey, hey!
Shut up!
Nothing to do with it?
What?
Nah?
Yes. There is someone that I love. I love her with all my heart, and she loves me with all her heart. Yes, we vowed an endless love to each other, forever bound by fate. None can come between us. We are bound by an intense love, no matter what anyone says.
What?
Don't tell me.
Wonderful.
Inside.
Wait!
Yeah.
Kersploosh!
Curse sploosh?
Hey!
Hey,
He means inside himself.
You see. Sister.
Ah, so it's not a mother, it's a sister. Cool. Hey guys, Future Chronos here. In the middle of editing this, I was looking for a good joke or a good meme or image or gif or whatever, maybe even a video clip about the whole surprise incest thing that just happened. Little bit of advice. Don't ever, ever, ever Google surprise incest. Wow! Don't ever Google surprise incest. Anyway, back to the game.
Right? Wait,
Whatever is the matter? I loved her so deeply, and she loved me so deeply. The fact that we were siblings meant nothing to us. They called it forbidden love, but none could stop the love we shared. Oh, how I long for my sister's warmth. The only time I felt at peace was when I was enveloped in my sister's warmth. For my beloved sister.
Always messing around.
No. Huh? Sister. However... Huh? Do you understand? For my beloved sister.
Yeah, so your motive is that you're just freaking nuts.
Huh?
Incomprehensible.
Sister. Yes.
What?
I am Korekio's older sister.
What?
Yes.
Nearly.
I am pleased. Sister. Korekio.
Are you serious?
I told you.
Ew.
Well, you know.
What was that?
Because
Unacceptable. Huh?
I see. So when we were deciding on who should be the medium.
I. Wonderful.
Yeah?
Why, you?
Then...
Excellent. Wonderful.
Huh?
But
How did you...
Can this be? Beautiful. Well,
No way!
now, let's see. For my beloved sister.
are you okay?
You look kind of pale.
However,
What is that?
Korekio. Oh dear.
Why? But how?
Do not worry. That's right. Sister.
What was that?
Well,
I mean, it's the ultimate fairness. If you think about it. Everyone has to face it eventually.
nyeh. And another thing.
maybe.
Wouldn't they?
then. Sister. Sister. Correcchio.
Oh. It's punishment time!
Huh? Sister. That's right.
What?
Therefore, from an anthropological point of view, yes.
What was that?
Now then, I've prepared a very special punishment.
I shall observe. That's right. Humanity is beautiful.
It's punishment time!
This might be one of the few times in the entire series where I've never been happier to see someone get their punishment.
Good night, everybody.